So, I'm working on the next recapitation episode, and I get a message on Twitter from creator Dan Squared asking me a straightforward question. Why do you like class systems? Or perhaps, what about the class system mechanic do you like? Nothing aggressive, just in response to some research he's doing on his own, and that I like to post class guides. But this caused me to pause and really reflect on that. Why do I like classes so much? After all, I play a lot of RPG and adventure games, and unless they're the tactical sort, they really don't use strict classes. Or do they? Personally, I have deep roots playing a lot of Dungeons & Dragons when I was younger, and I find that to this day, all RPGs are still emulating the practices set forth by that game. Sure, they may call it jobs or roles or vocations or even skill trees, but honestly it's all kind of the same thing. One of the great things I love about classes is that it plays on our implicit social instinct, and we're more inclined to cooperate with each other to survive. Since you know everyone has strengths and weaknesses, your teamwork is then the most important thing for watching out for each other. Progress is measured, and your roles are iconic and unique. For game enjoyment reasons, it's also much easier to balance a game with classes. Class systems are also an easier learning curve for newer players. The cost of forming a competent or cohesive character is far less expensive than figuring it out the hard way with complete freeform. As a player gets more used to things, they then understand the value of their skills in a bigger picture, but this all depends on how deeply the class system goes, of course. On the other hand, a lot of people don't like class systems because they feel there's an arbitrary limitation, or they just can't bother with min-maxing, or just go with something more freeform like Ultima, or more popularly the Elder Scrolls, in which your skills grow in reflection to your gameplay, even though that itself presents its own arbitrary limitations due to the cost of being so aimless. In the end, when presented with so many options at once, the skills are usually then weighted roughly the same, and when people are gonna pick whatever they think is quote-unquote the best, that usually has them trending towards a role anyway in order to be any good at anything. It's like, okay, well I like magic, so I'm gonna pick the magic related stuff. Well, if you were just gonna pick the magic related stuff anyway, why don't they just make a mage class or something like that, because you're just doing the same thing. Because usually the further you get in a game, the higher the skill wall becomes, and so you have to get good at something to keep having fun. Really, instead of having the class built for them, they're really just building the same class themselves, just taking longer to get there. All really for just the satisfaction of feeling in control. Oh sure, they brag of the basically endless customization, but it really turns out there was only the illusion of choice. Most people go with the path of least resistance and end up making just similar stuff, so honestly, what was the point? Really, open skill systems just make it easier to make like a goofy joke character. I'll tell you why I personally dislike systems that endorse complete sandbox creation. It's tedious to have fun. If I want to look cool or be strong or travel someplace, I will inevitably run into some wall that will force me to stop and grind. Grind money, grind a skill, grind a craft. I hate grinding. It's tedious, it kills the pacing of the story, it stops the immersion, and I feel like I'm wasting my time. It's why I really don't play most MMOs, even though, some of them look pretty cool. But, compared to a class system, if I need something, I know exactly how to get it, because it's something that's part of someone else's class, and then I know who and what to look for. That's not to say that there isn't sometimes grinding in class-focused games, but it's far less necessary, and usually only general experience levels. You have a lot of class systems that either fuse classes too, or let you use skills or abilities from select other classes, and I enjoy how this preserves the identity of the base class, while promoting some individuality. You also have way less disparity in strength with class systems, as a job is usually good at something, and while with an open skill system, it's really easy to be good at nothing, all the way to that one optimizer who's overpowered in everything. Classes are also great because if you like immersion, your own strengths and ideals are championed in some class somewhere, and you get that instant recognition. Playing an aspect of yourself in a game really feels good when the class thematically ties everything together to make you succeed so well. I also love it when you take the next step beyond, and the complexity of mixing with other classes then makes for some really interesting discussion and debate in real life. When it comes to class system mechanics, I actually prefer my system a little bit modular, where you have the ability to tweak or swap some abilities on an already pre-built class. If it's so freeform that I can do anything with anyone, I usually just end up making duplicate characters, and I feel that weakens the individuality of characters. I just get so much more satisfaction having people feel important and competent with a role and succeed at a team together. A lot of shooters are incorporating classes or hero kits these days, and it's really cool to see people enjoy those and talk teamwork and strategy with that, other than the usual, just use the top tier guns and get good. It's also important to note that games aren't automatically better with a class system, and not every game needs one either. I've seen good open skill systems and bad class systems, and that's just game design. Basically, it's the old Dungeons & Dragons versus Ultima Online debate. Classes versus skills, rigid versus fluid lifestyles. If anything, depending on how deep a class system goes, you end up finding that classes and skills end up resulting the same. Anyway, thanks for listening to this Digital Hindsight with me, Oni Black Mage, and I'll see you on the next battlefield. Thanks for listening.